Just when you thought it couldn't get worse. Cassie Ventura is back, and what she just revealed about Diddy is downright disturbing. In a new round of shocking allegations, Cassie's holding nothing back. She's naming names, recounting fresh abuse, and exposing the chilling truth behind closed doors. From violent assaults to blackmail, she's ripping the mask off completely. And the quote that's breaking the internet: "He's not just evil, he's nasty." Now the internet's in chaos. Insiders are panicking, and Diddy's team? Silent. So, why now? Why this detail? And what could be coming next?
Diddy Combs is about to face off in the biggest trial of his life, from those freak-offs to those RICO charges. There's a lot going on in this case, and a lot of witnesses will also be taking the stand. But here to break down the very latest, I want to bring into the conversation legal analyst Nima Rahmani. Nima, thanks so much for being with us here on Night Now from Fox.
Of course, Christina, excited for next week.
And it's been a trial that we've been continuing to follow here over the last few months and really over the last year as those developments have still tried to come into our newsroom. But let's start with the very basics. Something that came out this week: Diddy formally declined the last plea deal that he was offered. Again, we know court is set to begin on Monday. Was this an expected move for him to turn down that final plea offer?
Christina, it was expected. And the judge in the case, Judge Subramanian, asked Diddy, did you decline and reject the government's offer? And the reason is, it's the defendant's right to a speedy trial, and the judge wants to make sure that he is making a knowing and voluntary decision to push the case to trial, because obviously there's a benefit to pleading. Usually you get a reduced sentence. I still think it would be doubled.
Cassie was just 19 when she met Diddy. He was 36. This wasn't a mentorship. It was a power imbalance from day one. In 2006, she signed a 10-album deal with Bad Boy Records. Sounded like a dream, except only one album ever dropped. Instead of launching her stardom, she became his puppet. He controlled it all: her clothes, her friends, her schedule. She moved into his apartment. Her phone? Monitored. Meetings? Pre-approved. What started as a guide turned into something much darker very fast.
New developments within the past couple hours in the Sean Diddy Combs case.
Defense attorneys are requesting he be released on bail and placed on home confinement. Eyewitness News reporter Annabelle Munoz is here with more on a ruling expected in a matter of days that could lead to his release.
It certainly could, Philip and Ellen, and this is Combs' third request for bail. Two judges have shut down previous efforts, saying there's enough evidence he's a danger to the community to obstruct justice and intimidate witnesses. Today, his attorneys made another case for home confinement. Family members of music mogul Sean Diddy Combs arrived at a federal courthouse in New York as his attorneys urged a judge to release Combs on a $50 million bond. They argued Combs should be placed on home confinement in a 3-bedroom New York City apartment under 24/7 monitoring by full-time security. The prosecution argued Combs nor private security could be trusted to comply with the court. The judge did not immediately rule and says he will have a decision next week. This comes just days after the filing of 5 new civil lawsuits against Combs by
Court documents show that mentorship became manipulation. Cassie wasn't just silenced musically, she was emotionally trapped. Even her managers and assistants, loyal to him, not her. Once the relationship turned romantic, it got worse. "He made me feel like I owed him everything," Cassie testified. "That's not love. That's grooming." Isolated, scared, and surrounded by his people, Cassie felt powerless. And then it spiraled. Welcome to what she called the freak-off factory.
Get some updates on the case that is unfolding there regarding Sean Diddy Combs. These were the courtroom sketches. Just today, we're turning our attention now there, the sex trafficking case against Diddy, and the possible resentencing of the Menendez brothers in Los Angeles. We'll get to that in just a moment here, but let's focus our efforts on New York. We want to get to these headlines in both cases, and we're going to do that with our friend Nima Rahmani, former federal prosecutor and legal analyst. He joins us. Nima, good to see you, and thanks for being with us here. You were tweeting about the Diddy case today. There was an emergency hearing called this afternoon at the courthouse in Lower Manhattan, the judge ordering the prosecution to turn over its findings from a jail cell raid, Diddy's jail cell, just yesterday. What were the contents of those raids?
Well, apparently, according to the defense, they're legal documents. The government's saying no, on the contrary, they're just some handwritten notes and a calendar. And what the judge did, Judge Subramanian, is he ordered the prosecution.
At just 22, Cassie was ordered, not invited, into weekly freak-offs. Not parties. Not consensual. These were setups, escorts, drugs, cameras, and her. Diddy reportedly drugged her before each session. GHB, ecstasy, mushrooms, sometimes in Gatorade, sometimes straight-up pills. Refuse? She'd be cut off, emotionally and financially. She said she had to disassociate to survive. It wasn't sex. It was a power play. Over and over again. Hundreds of freak-offs. Nearly a decade. I felt like I was for sale, but I never got the money.
New York City. Want to get some updates on the case that is unfolding there regarding Sean Diddy Combs. These were the courtroom sketches. Just today, we're turning our attention now there, the sex trafficking case against Diddy and the possible resentencing of the Menendez brothers in Los Angeles. We'll get to that in just a moment here, but let's focus our efforts on New York. I want to get to ththese headlines in both cases, and we're going to do that with our friend Nima Rahmani, former federal prosecutor and legal analyst. He joins us. Nima, good to see you, and thanks for being with us here. You were tweeting about the Diddy case today. There was an emergency hearing called this afternoon at the courthouse in Lower Manhattan, the judge ordering the prosecution to turn over its findings from a jail cell raid, Diddy's jail cell, just yesterday. What were the contents of those raids?
Well, apparently, according to the defense, they're legal documents. The government's saying no, on the contrary, they're just some handwritten notes and a calendar. And what the judge did, Judge Subramanian, is he ordered the prosecution to...
The control wasn't just emotional, it was pharmaceutical. Cassie said she needed to be high to survive what was happening. I had to be out of my body, she told the court. Diddy made sure of it. He allegedly handed her drugs regularly, ecstasy, opiates, some prescribed under fake names by doctors on his payroll. Before events, trips, freak-offs, she was dosed. One time, she overdosed and woke up in a hospital with no memory. She began losing her sense of taste and smell. The drugs weren't just a crutch. They were a cage.
Sean Diddy Combs has been sitting in federal prison for 8 months, and it is a lousy prison. And I got to tell you, there is a world where people look at the indictment against him and look at the case as we know it at this point and say, wow, has this guy been overpunished to this point? But now it will begin in earnest on Monday, okay? And we're going to see whether or not the government has the ability to show charges that will have made it a huge mistake for Combs to not take a deal. Now, what's he charged with? Sex trafficking, racketeering, conspiracy, transportation to engage in prostitution. Now, I got to tell you, most of those are implication crimes, meaning that they're going to say, well, we can't get you specifically for this thing, but we know you were part of this enterprise that was doing this thing. If convicted, he could face life.
I thought being broken was just part of the deal, Cassie told her therapist. Surveillance. Fear. Control. She couldn't leave without security following. Texts and calls? Monitored. Break a rule? Her phone and laptop vanished. Diddy allegedly FaceTimed during freak-offs. Hidden cameras. Bugged rooms. Even therapy sessions weren't safe. She began sleeping with a knife under her pillow. In 2018, she feared for her life. And Diddy's staff? According to her, they enforced it all. Then came the most chilling part, blackmail.
The rapper and producer faces multiple charges, including racketeering, conspiracy, and sex trafficking. Prosecutors allege Combs was the mastermind behind a years-long operation to sexually abuse women. He denies any wrongdoing and rejected a plea deal that could have resulted in a lighter sentence. He faces life in prison if convicted. We're joined now by Gina Barton, investigative reporter for USA Today. Thanks for being with us, Gina. So jury selection started today. What are you hearing from your colleagues in the courtroom about how hard it's going to be to find people to serve on this case?
The judge has estimated that it'll only take 3 days to pick a jury, but from how slowly things are going, it may take longer. They're interviewing each juror separately and individually. They have 150 people that they called in. One of them, they spoke to a single person for about 25 minutes. So it could take quite a while to find.
He had everything recorded, Cassie claimed. The freak-offs, the sex, the shame, it was all documented. Laptops, iPads, backups. He'd allegedly open the footage mid-flight and say, "You'll have to answer to your mom when the world sees this." She said she believed him because he had the power to destroy her life. Lawyers, PR, the footage, he had it all. She had nothing. And even after their breakup, the fear never left. Clip 8. Cassie said the violence began in 2009 in the back of an SUV. Diddy punched her so hard, she collapsed to the floor. After a BET event, he stomped her face. His staff hid her in a hotel room to cover the bruises. She had black eyes, a scar, and trauma so deep it caused UTIs. Everyone saw it, his assistants, his security, even escorts. There's video from the Intercontinental Hotel, Diddy dragging her down a hallway. Once rumors, now federal evidence.
May 8th, no one's in court, but they will return on Friday, May 9th, and I'll be there as well too. And on Friday, May 9th, they're going to try and cut down this pool of 45 people into 12 jurors and 6 alternates that they need to begin the trial on Monday. Monday is where opening statements start. Monday's date is, because I know people don't watch this in real time sometimes, Monday, May 12th is when opening statements begin in Diddy's trial. Now, yesterday in court, Wednesday, May 7th, there was some issues with the jurors because it's hard to find people that are either not connected to not even just Diddy in the story at this point, but also to some of the attorneys in the room and the judge. So there was one juror that took issue with being selected. He came onto the stand and instantly you noticed, like you would notice in the court, that there was like a kind of like a little key that went down with him and the judge. And it's because he's actually litigated some cases with the judge. So of course, he was dismissed, and the jurors said, like, you know, I wouldn't be comfortable doing this because I think it may make it hard for me to litigate some other cases that I have coming up. So he was dismissed, but then, and the judge...
"You're not going anywhere. I'll ruin you." That's what Diddy allegedly told her. She believed it, because for years it worked. Shame, silence, control. He had the footage, the money, and the narrative. Her staff, still his staff. She couldn't run. Even after leaving, she feared what he might leak. Cassie called it psychological handcuffs. Now she's breaking them publicly.
Tomorrow in New York with jury selection. Now, Combs has pleaded not guilty to multiple charges, including sex trafficking, and has denied all civil allegations against him. Now, sources say Combs' ex-girlfriend, Cassie Ventura, will be a central witness during the trial. Now, sources also tell CNN other witnesses expected to testify include his former sexual partners, a business associate, and a male sex worker. Joining me now to discuss is trial attorney and former senior assistant district attorney Otto Ekpo. Thank you for being here. Can you just put into perspective how significant this case is?
This is a very, very significant case. I like to akin this is the Gen Z's, I guess, version of the O.J. Simpson trial.
Wow.
I was in 5th grade whenever the O.J. verdict came out, and I remember my teacher stopping trial, or stopping the court, stopping our courtroom just for us to figure out, like, what's going on. We got to figure out what's happening with this verdict. What's different in this particular case than the O.J. Simpson trial is that this is not going to be live streamed.
Yeah.
You know, in federal court, you can't live stream any type of court at all. You can't live stream any trials. And so your audience is really going to have to focus on how CNN is kind of letting them know how.
Cassie wasn't the only one. Assistants like Carrie Morgan and Christina Carorum allegedly witnessed the abuse. Carrie, beaten during freak-off prep. Even male staffers weren't safe. One got punched over clothing. One woman was reportedly dangled over a balcony. It was chaos. Constant. Everyone saw. Everyone stayed silent. Even escorts whispered, "Are you okay?" Cassie said Diddy's longtime security guy, Dirok, would bring her ice after beatings, like it was part of the routine. No one protected her. The machine protected him.
Savory in some folks' eyes, they were not non-consensual. And because of that, they were not criminal acts.
You know, there's been also a lot of discussion about whether Sean Diddy Combs himself will take the stand. You know, defense teams often shy away from that, even if, you know, someone is very keen on, you know, sharing their perspective, their truth. Do you think that's going to happen, or do you think that he is not going to take the stand?
Yikes. You know, I would absolutely advise him not to take the stand, in part because there's so much impeachment material that he would be confronted with while on the stand. Look at the Cassie video in and of itself. You know, the prosecutor would walk through that in painstaking detail and say, hey, is this you, you know, kicking your girlfriend in the stomach while she's on the ground? Is this you dragging her by her hair? Don't you understand that that could cause pain to somebody or cause them to be intimidated? Was that part of your design all along? All of these questions could be damning for Diddy, and I doubt that.
Cassie had talent. She had hits, but her music career? Frozen by control. She wrote hundreds of songs, almost none released. Diddy allegedly shelved her projects, blocked gigs, and even crashed events she booked on her own. He wanted me broke, so I couldn't leave, she testified. Her success was strangled on purpose. The label deal became a prison, but eventually she escaped. Then came the lawsuit, $20 million, and now the federal trial. This isn't just her story anymore. It's the unraveling of an empire. And it's far from over.